What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video in the Ideal Auto Factory. Today we're going to be going through the manual for the RMX EXS Pro RC Drift Kit, and it's a 1/10 scale MST RMX. I'm pretty sure it's just a little upgrade from the RTR or the kit version of the 2.5 RS. So keep God first. Now let's get into this manual. All right, so the MST RMX EXS Pro. This is the instruction manual for it. It says the wheelbase is 210 to 245 millimeter. I don't know. I don't know why it says that. Because I thought it was 265 millimeter like everything else, or 257, whatever, standard, 1/10 scale bodies and stuff. So more details on that later. I love that they do have the wheelbase with the caster, the camber, and letting you know about whether it's, ball bearings and, hydraulic dampers, oil in the shocks and stuff. So this is the kit. The RMX EXS is a more modern line than the RMX 2.5 RS and stuff like that. So the Pro is just a new word they're using here for the plastic fantastic versions of their kits. So here's the exploded view. This is most of the major parts there. And then there is another exploded view of all of the other parts. Even down to the screws, you get a part number. So here are all the tools and accessories. On the right, they're saying you're going to need these tools here, and on the left you'll have these included in the box. I really like this tool a lot. I like it better than the what is it called? The cross wrench or lug nut, 4-corner thing. Why am I blanking on what that tool is? But I like this a lot better, slimmer and everything. So page 1, parts 1, the parts bag. This is for the front lower arm. Obviously you have these parts here on the left that you will use. And then here is a little asterisk or note to please keep the rest parts for the next steps. So it's telling you, hey, some of these parts will not be used fully on this page, and you'll need them for later. The only thing I want to point out on this page really is these arms. I'm pretty sure there's an explanation for the numbers on them, but -2, and then the it will be down arrow, and then you got 1. I wonder what that's about, whether it's 2 millimeter or 1 millimeter, and then you put a spacer or something in there. The best way I can describe it is basically the number allows you to reference your toe, and whatever the two numbers are, you can do some math and figure out your toe, instead of it being about the millimeters and the pills and all of that. It's just directly related to the toe. So if you have a difference in the two numbers, you have toe. If you don't have a difference, meaning if the numbers are the same, you have 0 toe. I really think that we've gotten to a place in RC Drift where adjustments can be made on chassis with solid pieces, and you just use a little M3 grub screw and slide it in and out, versus this where you have to unscrew the adjuster from the actual screw, the 40 millimeter screw, and that's how you get more length out of what you need. Now this is what I really wanted to touch on, the rear lower arms. As you can see here, they have adjustability. Now I remember there being adjustability in, I think it's the MB suspension for suspension arms, the rear lower arms for MST, but these are more like wrap up next, Yokomo, the way you just add the right spacers in the middle and you're good to go. The spacer on the outside here is a 3x6x0.5 spacer, And the spacers on the inside, they're 3 by 5.5. So you definitely have to get a very specific spacer here for the inside diameters of what needs to be clearance there. So your parts, you have a 12. It just says plus 12 and then plus 13. I don't know what that measurement is. I haven't opened the box yet, but we're just going through the manual and seeing what's up. Now, of course, you attach it the same way. They are definitely going for the more promoting a squat situation here, because not only is there one, but there's 2.5 millimeter suspension mount spacers for the rearmost suspension mount. Parts bag 2. Now these are really cool. And this is only my second time ever building an MST. So the way these arm shaft bushings go in, I find that really cool, and you get some adjustments. And then you have your upper arms, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then this is pretty much you're assembling the bulkhead here. The instructions are pretty clear. Now parts bag 3, the steering wiper system, steering arm assembly. So here, the M3 by 12 screw that's at the bottom of the whole steering assembly, those need to be screwed in with the appropriate force. I was just emphasizing what they emphasized. Next, here's the steering servo. So, man, a servo saver on a kit like this, yeah, I don't think we're that pressed on performance, but servo savers, they work. I don't know. I kind of moved away from them, but if I can find a way to lock it out, I will. But yeah, you get standard servo mounts, servo horn for each and all servos. Your turnbuckles, they tell you the lengths on those. I'm assuming they're all steel. And this is life size on the manual, so you can just put this right on top. You can put a turnbuckle right on top of that, and it will tell you whether or not you got it perfect, because it's, actual size to scale. The front steering, whole bulkhead, the steering servo, the steering horn, and all that, it all gets put together now. Here is the, similar to the 2.5, this like connector A, connector B, kind of like rear half here, but the upper deck left and right, those are not carbon fiber, it's plastic, and that's pretty much your upper deck there, and you have a spot for your gyro. Now I found that pretty cool, but depending on how I do this chassis, that might not even go there. I think after a while I took mine off the first time, but the gyro mount is quite cool. I do want to know, what is this for? This little circle here. Either way, on to the next page here. This is the diff. Now, hey guys, I love me a good diff build. This one here, this page right here, this takes like diff building, and just makes it really simple for me. Some of you guys might be like, nah, this is way too much, but here it is. They're telling you to put oil right here. In step 1, they tell you to put oil. That used to be, for whatever reason, how do I call it? A hack or a tip or a pro tip kind of thing. But MST is telling you, Dave, right out the gate, hey, put some oil right here on the diff joint, then put the spacer, O-ring, and then there goes the diff gear itself. Boom. And then you're going to put the shaft, inside of the diff joint after you put the washer on. Easy. Step 2, now you're putting all your washers on your diff gears, and then the star shaft, all of it, and then it goes down. And then step 3, they're telling you to put diff oil in there, and they specifically tell you to fill with oil up to the level of star shaft. Star shaft. Not the gears, not up to here, but the star shaft. I think that's a pretty straightforward way of building them. Now, you do the same process. Obviously, it kind of looks like they just flip step 1 over, and now you have step 4, but nope, that's where the diff case goes. And yeah, they tell you to put all of it together, and then you got the 4. They don't tell you to do a star pattern here or anything like some special tip here. So yeah, that's different. But then they give you the 1-to-1 and how it should look. So to me that's a plus too. So very, very simple instructions towards the diff page here on Parts Bag 5. In Parts Bag 5, you have the rear gearbox. This gearbox case, oh, that's cool. Got the little spot right there. This gearbox case is probably the same as an RMX 2.0. And this is where most of my video is, why I'm making it, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It is 2025. And I know the RMX 2.5 came out with a spool diff and this gearbox right here, the idler gearbox. But I had an RMX 2.0 with the slide tie aluminum rear gearbox that allowed you to use the Yokomo gear diff in the rear, or a ball diff from a Yokomo, or the MST ball diff. I can't remember. Either way, it switched it from Spider gears to idler gears in 2021. I think that's when I had that. And here we are, it's 2025. And it's like standard now. And I get it. I know it, trying not to have Yokomo stuff mixed with MST stuff. Just keep your stuff the same, keep your whole ecosystem the same. I totally understand that. It's just like, man, these RMX, RRX, these chassis, these drift chassis haven't changed much at all. And you can say the same for the Yokomo ones. The YD2s is still around technically with RD or SD in a sense. It's the majority of the same stuff. Idler gears, but MST took forever to come full force with the idler gear setup. So I do like this whole gearbox setup here, but you can get confused here. It clearly says the left mount is thicker than the right mount there for the shaft support mount assembly. And then you have the idler gears as a 26 and then the 22, and then big ball bearings, smaller ball bearings. So not a lot of parts are the same. And when you put it all together, there's more spacers and all this other stuff. And no quick change. No quick change 2025. Okay. All right. Let's just move on. ESC mount. Yep, right there. Okay. I'm gonna just move on. The motor mount, you get 2 spots, I believe. Yeah, you get 2 spots based off of the first page here. So you can mount it up high or mount it down low. Let's go to that motor mount page again. And the spaces are removable when the gear gap is too small. Spacer 12. Okay, yeah, I get what it's talking about. And then you got the ADT. Now, MST and their ADTs, I'm sure that's because of their gear ratios on the inside there, but the ADT spur and your FDR at the end is still, pretty standard. So nothing too crazy here. You get a low or high. Reminds me of the GOM in this situation, where if you're low or high, right in stock form, your battery still can't slide all the way back to the rear there. And that's because of this little piece here. Now, a big plus is the gear ratio that they give you for like your FDR when you use a certain pinion with how they have it set up. That is so great. Like a 25 being 9.6 and then your 10 is a 24. Yeah, I really like that. And so from there, you've got your whole assembly for the basically top deck and then the gearbox together. They tell you how to get your gear ratios. This is a plus to me. Like, having it right there in the manual to come back to and, know what's up. So now with the parts bag 6, these are not called shock towers. I mean, MST's got some way with the words there. This is why I wanted to go through this manual, because imagine pulling up to the track, start talking about your RMX EX S Pro, and instead of you saying rod end, you say adjuster. Maybe it's your adjuster. It's a little too tight, and then somebody looks at you like, what? You're talking about a rod end or a ball cup because it clearly says adjuster right there, but it's a ball cup, or a rod end, whatever. And then this is clearly a shock tower. Like, to everybody else, it's a shock tower, but to MST, no, it's a damper stay. So here it is. You can have a damper stay, and you're gonna put those on the front bulkhead and the rear gearbox, and then make your turnbuckles with your adjuster and a turnbuckle. I love this life size, again, full view. That's kind of standard now with all manuals, but yeah, with MST, they have theirs turned certain ways, and you can easily identify with the MST logo up top versus on the bottom. So you can see there, it's not on the bottom, it's on the top, so it's less confusion. And it's the half or dome instead of the adjuster right here, which is a saucer. I'm gonna call it a saucer and then a dome rod end. Or no, a saucer adjuster or a dome adjuster. Love that one. What is that? Two screws for the damper stay, and that's it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now the front axle. Okay, this is one of the coolest front axle setups I've seen as far as like in the kit. Wait, I just noticed something. They tell you to cut something here. I guess there's a little tab right there. You must be gotta cut it because it's a stopper. Oh, maybe you cut one for one stopper and the other for the other stopper for the right side or the left side. Either way, it's front axle. You got two. They're mirrors of each other, so they're exactly the same. But putting it all together, it's like pretty standard, except you can choose to have brake calipers this time. So it's showing you with the brake calipers right here, and then yeah, so here it is without the hubs. You don't need to put that in or have that on. You just run it this way. There it is. So you run it this way. And it looks like you have to have the brake caliper mount, but I'm going to see if you don't need that at all and just run it like a regular knuckle without calipers. So I'm going to try that, but we all know the best way is with brakes and calipers because it's true to scale. So yeah. Now the rear axle, I like axles that come with the grub screw in the cross joint. That way you don't have this pin flying out in any way, shape, or form. It is solid in the middle, and even this one has a little flat spot so that that can be in place. Other times it's just rounded. But now with that being flat, this should flush mount into, this screw should flush mount right there on top of that. Black grease standard. I don't know if this stuff is pre-assembled or not, but yep, this is another great visual of how this stuff works, because I feel like sometimes when these parts are assembled, we build them and then we go all the way in, but we don't know how far in is in. And then now with the bearing here being right there, there's pressure because we went too far in, or it's an afterthought for the manufacturer. Well, MST, yeah, they show you exactly what's what here. So that first one going in, that you see exactly where it's supposed to stop, and then the next one is supposed to stop pretty much at the same spot. That way you don't put too much pressure on the bearing with the screw, and then you have an out of round bearing. All right, so this is the last page of the first part of the digital manual. So now I get to go over to the second page, or second set of pages. This is now the second part B of the manual here. So parts back 7, they pretty much showing you how to put everything in. If you look here, there's only one spot to place this shaft in, and I know sometimes that can be a little confusing, and you got one stopper on both sides. So both sides have a stopper. You have one place you can place the upright in. Shaft goes through, and make it with a flat spot. So I'm assuming there's some upgrade you can do here, and a grub screw goes right there. Now, of course, they're showing you where all of these stuff goes, but yeah, this is the page I was talking about. So you have the regular version here with the hex, and then right there you have the hub version with the caliper. Let's go to the next page here, the shocks. Oh boy, I don't know if I said this. My first kit ever was an MST RMX 2.0. And this page was the hardest page for me to follow. Sorry, my daughter's right here sleeping. Oh, there she goes. And I'm trying to keep her comfortable here. Now, since I started out, this was my first shock build, and I was like, what? And here's all the stuff in there, right? And nothing weird about this. You got the E-clips, got how you put the dampers together. They're telling you to put oil in all these places and how to do it slowly. And then you get to here and they tell you 4mm spacing there, and to pull down the piston rod 4mm, attach the cylinder cap and absorb oil overflow with the tissue paper. And then, the height of all this stuff. I was just distraught from this page. Like, I was like, you're gonna do what? And then even here, 13mm spacing. I was trying to measure all this stuff. It felt like it took me 3 days to get past this page. Now, the worst part was this. I took this to heart, okay? I literally went and found the perfect size tissue paper or whatever to make that perfect picture, so I could put this shock in, or what do they call it? Because it's not going to be, damper adjuster. See, there ain't no way that's a damper adjuster. MST, that is not a damper adjuster. If anything, this would be a damper adjuster. Whatever. MST, count your days for that title for your adjusters. Because you don't adjust that ever. Whatever. Back to what I was saying. It took me 3 years to get shock pliers because I thought this was like the ultimate way to screw your shocks on with the rod in there. Because this was my first kit, right? And, you know, seeing these pictures, I took all of this, like this was the standard of how to build them. And I was completely wrong. There are so many ways to build your dampers. Honestly, this is a little complicated. If I'm gonna be real with you, this is just, it's not simple at all. This makes a little bit of it of an issue. Now, I will reference these before I move on. These springs up here, the DKRWD drift spring, 26 millimeter, and then the DKRWD 28 millimeter, and it's green and then purple green. Let me show y'all something. Okay, so these are the OGs right here. These came out, I don't know how many years ago. But this is the coil spring set. I still have a set of these somewhere. But now there's these new ones. And yeah, so F26R28 and 6x6. Achieving stable entry and fast exit characteristics during cornering. So this whole drift set, DK drift set here, you get a nice medium for the settings. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's not stiff, but think of it more like barrel springs. That's the best way I can describe it. It's right there in the middle, a good balance, and with all of the extra stuff that you're doing with this 4 millimeter gap or anything related to like your rebound, your shock rebound here with the way you're tuning this stuff, all of that makes this, it's just I don't have the words to describe it, but I feel like you just be better off with trusting the spring than trusting doing all of this and doing all of that. Just do the springs and have it. Just don't worry about doing all of this perfect. That's the best way I can say it. Now, of course, you put the dampers on, and I do like the setup here with a screw that's kind of holding it all together when you put it together. Battery holder doesn't add a lot of weight, so I really like that. A very simple battery holder design. And it does look like there's holes to put the battery further back. You see right here and right there. I think there's an option part you can put here that gets rid of that. Or you just get some pliers and cut it. Yes. And this is it's like they go from, you know, being super detailed about the springs, which is kind of very complicated to produce as a beginner in a sense, but then you have this, which is another level of like, oh, this is super high, you know, performance kind of mindset here. So you can heighten the battery, right? You heighten the battery here on battery mounts B and L right here where my mouse's cursor is moving. But here, you remove it for a thin short battery, you add it for a general short battery. So you got the shorty LiPo, like LCG, less than 4,000 milliamp hours or 4,000 milliamp hours. And then you got like 3,500 milliamp hours and stuff. Or, you know, just big battery, little battery. And then, here it is again. So you can remove the spacer for a short battery, you know, 93 millimeters, and then you got something that's longer than 93 millimeters. Yeah, you add the spacer. Look at that. And it's a little spacer right there. I like this too, PVC deck protective film. So they give you a protective film to put on your deck so your battery doesn't just rub up all up on there, just in case you didn't put the right spacers on there. They really don't want your battery to move. And they put a lot of time into this page with very descriptive wording to let you know, hey, put that battery in there right. The grill, well thought out, good stuff there. Now here, attaching the battery, I like that. Follow the arrow direction to put the battery. Close the battery baffle. Recommend using a thin shorty for the greater vehicle performance. So they're telling you to put it in this way every single time. I like that. Now, over here, bag 7, you got a flange nut and a wheel hub spacer. They don't include wheels. They tell you where to put your transmitter and everything like that. It'd be nice if they could tell you your weight, but of course they can't because you're not using what they have. But yeah, that is it assembled pretty much. Got your body mounts. I love this very nice bumper support in the rear bumper. They have little handles. Looks like you can hold the chassis up with it. It's not a diffuser, and they just call it, bumper support. So now you have this whole body mount system with clips, and I guess that's just never going to change for these vehicles. We could all just use some magnetic mounts straight out the box, but that means the magnetic mount kit would have to cost less or whatever. I don't know. We get what we got. And here we have the high CG mode 1. They show you very detailed, gives you FDR when you choose a certain pinion. And then the motor, the ESC, they pointed out, the servo, the battery, they show everything. Just this way, and then they show you with the ESC here and the motor here. I got a feeling you can change this servo to be more forward, but that's for a different day. But I do see I like this chassis overall for the potential of changes. Now, here you can also see from mode 1 to mode 2, that option part I was talking about. You buy the option part and there it is. Now, my fellow viewers, if you want to do mode 2 without spending $1, just cut the little piece off. They are clearly showing that it's not needed in order to do what you got to do here. So I would just cut the piece and go on about your day. No need to buy the extra part unless you go on full option with it, and that's part of the MST game right there. Now it's showing you how to go to high CG mode with the option part, integrated upper deck, and they tell you to please purchase this. So they're telling you how to do it. They're telling you how to change up your chassis and make it this way. And then of course on this page it's showing you how to go from RMX to RRX. The RRX setup is desired for some. It looks like you need a different connector overall to make it work, especially with the gearbox. They're giving you a ducktail. I don't know what that ducktail is for, but they're giving you that. Maybe it's because the gearbox doesn't close naturally and you need something to close the gearbox in the rear. And then of course you place a shock tower in the front, and now with that extra piece that you bought, now you have a new setup in the front here, because you have to extend to get it further that way, as you can see right there. So this is RRX mode. So the chassis comes with 3 different modes, and even like thinking about that, with this RRX mode, excuse me, you have a whole new layout, but it's all in just one option part. Buy one option part and then you'll be good to go. And then of course the diffuser there as well. So now I like this page very much. This page here starts explaining, caster angle, how to set up your front arms and the many different options. As you can see here, there goes that down 1 versus the 2. If you want to change things up there in step 1. So step 2, steering setting, you got normal and reverse. Extend the steering arm stroke, shorten the steering arm stroke. There's just good knowledge here. And I tried to see if Ackerman changed, and it just says it'll change quick. No, the parallel time of 2 rounds at the beginning of the steering movement is shorter. So it's shorter. The parallel is shorter here, and it's longer here. Now, onto the caster. Like, look at this. They're telling you which ones to put. So 2 mil is 8 degrees. 3 mil over here is 6 degrees. 1 mil is 10 degrees. And 0 mil is 12 degrees. If you put the bottom on the way it's supposed to be. And notice they tilt the adjusters, the rod ends. So again, like, it's very detailed in all these ways. And then I guess from a beginner standpoint, even this is like proving that they have some extra effort that they put towards this chassis in regards to explaining to you what everything does. So I really like that. And here you have your setup sheet, of course. And they tell you everything for stock settings. Now, out of the manual, it's telling you to go LCG mode, 8 degrees caster. There's your steering. There's your spot to put the steering holes and everything like that. Then these are the knuckles. Oh man, it's just so good. They give you every setting. Even, you see that, the front damper? Everything about it. Diff weight, gear diff oil, the FDR down to the the pinion and everything. Motor, ESC, battery, transceiver, gyro, sensitivity, even down to the gain setting. That's really good. I like that a lot. So you notice here the ground, and then tell you the ride height there. So very specific, very to the point, very detailed. And of course, here's all the parts. Skipping through. See, here we go. RMX 2.5 S Pro FRP upper deck. So it's an RMX 2.5 lower deck too. So FRP. So the chassis has 2.5 parts. Just a bit of an upgrade there. And there's everything else. Thank you all for watching this video. It's been a different one, and just kind of being creative, I wanted to go through the manual with you all and also just kind of share my thoughts. But nonetheless, I hope you all enjoyed it. And I'll do another one again. I want to do the Yusukani NGE manual, so that one will be next. But I have a few videos planned out. Currently have a car in the garage, so an actual car, so no drifting right now, but I plan to get to the track and yeah, go from there. So like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment below, and always know that you should keep God first. And I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.